Hello again. This is Abnormal Psychology. We're looking at assessment, and this is part three. So we're looking at what do we talk about? What do we ask about? What do we check on? Well, we want to check on history, which includes things like family. Who lives with you? Are your parents alive? Where are they? Brothers, sisters, children, partners, what the status of those partners is. Do they live with you, or you're married? A lot of that you're going to get from the intake forms, but some of it you won't. You want to get an idea of if you want to get an idea if any of the other family members, particularly who are first order relatives, have had issues that required psychological or psychiatric treatment, because some things have a heritable or genetic component attached to the expression of them. So that's important. You want to see how much education they have and what they do for a living. You want medical history, major issues, psychological issues. Who else has treated them? Yes, if anyone. Okay. And now let's talk about the mental status exam. The mental status exam is your observations and impressions of a client as to their mental functioning. So you're going to look at things like their appearance, including their posture, their poise, their clothing, their grooming, those kinds of things. The quality of their speech. How much do they speak? How fast do they speak? What is the quality of their vocabulary? We're going to look at their mood. Mood is your estimation of their internal emotional state, yeah, and so that's the sustained emotional state. Affect is the presented exterior emotional responsiveness. Is it appropriate? Is it inappropriate? Does it vary much? You want to see how they perceive things. Is it accurate or inaccurate as to concrete things? Okay, you have an ear out for that. I look at their thought content. So thought content is revealed by speech. So what kinds of things do they think about? Are there obvious themes in what they think about, even within the context of an interview? Did they go back to other things that they started with? And what are the variations? And what quantity, quality, speed, and direction is their thought processing? Interesting. Are they impulsive? Do they have good control over sexually aggressive urges? You would get that perhaps from a history of any contact with the judicial system, or did they ever get in any fights when they were younger? Those kinds of things. Yeah. What's their judgment like? Do they understand the consequences of what they do? And what is their level of insight? How well do they understand what the issues are for themselves versus not understanding it? Do they look at themselves in the context of what they're experiencing or not? Do they blame other people or not? Do they own what their part is in whatever's happening or not? Do they overemphasize their own part in what's happening? So, what is their awareness and understanding of their own condition? Is what insight is. Okay? Now, there are two words that arise from long ago that we still use that are not really official. And one of those is neurosis, and the other is psychosis. Neurosis implies emotional disturbance, generally in the form of anxiety, about one's own problems, and it usually is exhibited in worrying or ruminating, internal ruminating, and that's called negative affect. If you see it on the outside and they're worrying and concerned, worrying about themselves, am I good enough? Is everybody okay? And it's a lot of anxious kinds of thinking. And then the other one is called psychosis. And psychosis, the word implies a loss of contact with reality. And so that implies that the person has either hallucinations or delusions, sometimes both. Okay? So hallucinations are perceptual errors about the world, and delusions are false beliefs that are rigid and continuous. We'll talk about those in a minute. But so part of what psychosis implies further is that you have an inability to willfully attend to that which you want to attend to, and an impairment is implied as to social and personal functioning, also occupational functioning, often, but not always, depends on what they do for a living, and often withdrawal. So most people with psychosis are in a withdrawal mode. These terms are not precise, but they are still used. You know? So it's important to know what they mean. Now, let's talk about delusions and then hallucinations, okay? So delusions are irrational false beliefs, not consistent with culture or intelligence, that are not due to medical conditions or substance abuse. They might seem believable at first notice, but they are not likely. In fact, they are incredibly unlikely. So patients don't, here's the thing. Patients don't look like they're delusional until you touch on the delusion itself. And then here we go. And by the way, don't go right into delusion and try and tell them that's not true. They won't come back. That won't work. Okay? It's important to note that they're delusional. Now, if someone said to you, for example, the police are following me, I'm sure of it because XYZ. Is it possible the police are following them? Maybe. Highly, highly unlikely. Statistically speaking, probably not. You may see correlative delusions along with that one that would seal it up nicely. So if someone said, I think the police are following you, I'm sure of it because of XYZ, and you ask, is anything else strange happening to you that you'd care to mention? Well, I'm pretty sure my neighbor works for the CIA. Well, you see, so is it possible that the neighbor works for the CIA and the police are following? Well, here we go. We're going down the rabbit hole of statistical improbabilities. Yes? Okay. Now, if you hit on the delusion, they are very firm in their belief, and they will begin to make explanations that don't make sense. Now, there are general types of delusions. One is just a bizarre delusion, which is strange and completely implausible. I saw a woman who believed that aliens were at night coming through a tube from the Kremlin into her, through her belly button to carve out her insides. That's why she had a stomach ache. That's a bizarre delusion, and it's not true, is it? Okay. A non-bizarre delusion, although false, has some possibility, like the police surveillance one that I mentioned. But as I said, you'll get some other things along with that that will tell you that that's not true. Okay, then we have what are called mood congruent delusions, which are consistent with your emotional state, your interior emotional state. So if somebody is depressed and they have a delusion that television personalities are telling them that they don't like you, that's mood congruent delusion. Mood incongruent would be the opposite. If you have depression that's severe enough, you can get delusions and even hallucinations with significant enough depression. Yeah, it can get that bad. It's rare, but it happens. If they believe that the television personalities are telling them that they think they're really wonderful people, that would be incongruent. And then there are lots that are in between. They're neutral. They're not connected. Okay, so a person might believe, despite depression or bipolar disorder, whatever it may be, they believe that they're growing an extra limb out of their back. That would be a mood neutral delusion. Okay? Now, there are specific types. Those are general types. The specific types include delusions of grandeur, which means an exaggeration of one's own self-importance and self-concept. A control delusion is that they are controlled by other things, like they might believe there's a chip in their neck that's being controlled by it. A delusion of reference. They believe that the behaviors of others refer to them. It's referring to them. Persecution, that others are out to harm them. Self-blame, with intense guilt and remorse and shame without any cause. I mean intense, not just feeling bad about oneself, which can come with things like depression and low self-esteem and so on. Infidelity, which is pathological jealousy, not momentary jealousy, but pathological ongoing jealousy without any evidence of infidelity being something that happened. Thought broadcasting, where the person believes that they can actually give thoughts to other people. All right. So we can also have something called thought disorders. So thought, again, I said this earlier in a different way, but thought construction is revealed through speech. The style of thinking a person has is revealed through speech. Now, disordered thought, the phrase disordered thought means that there is a persistent underlying disturbance to their conscious thought. Now, it's normal and expected to exhibit short-term thought disordering when you're under extreme stress, cataclysmic events, life-threatening events. It's normal. But the degree and frequency and resulting functional impairment that a person has as a result of the thinking that they have will tell us that the person we're observing has a thought disorder. So if you see someone who is heavily impaired in all spheres of their life, you are likely to encounter a thought disorder. Not 100%, but you're likely to. And there are some specific types. One is called circumstantiality. This is where someone brings in a lot of irrelevant, trivial detail and never gets to the point of what they're being asked. So if somebody said, "Hi, Rich, how are you? By the way, where are you from?" And I said, "Well, I was born in an area that's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of immigrants used to be there, and they were often very poor." That's circumstantial. That's irrelevant or trivial relative to the question that was asked. Another is clang associations. They put things together based on sound, not meaning. I've never seen this, but I've watched film of it. So, Rich, where are you from? Bing, bam, boom. Big time, big city, New York, big time. Bing, bing, bing. A derailment, thought disorder, loose associations, breakdown in logical connections. The words make sense, but the sentences don't. Rich, where are you from? From city large where in the part thereof in I have no real way to tell you why that is. They're derailed. Logical connections are broken down. An erotomanic delusion, thought disorder. That's where someone believes another person is in love with them when there's no connection whatsoever. There's a fair number of people who are stalkers are actually erotomanically delusional. They believe that another person declared their love simply by glancing at them or sending them through a fan club, an autographed picture. Something like that. Or maybe even nothing. Maybe it's all on TV and the person went, as what's her name used to do, Carol Burnett used to pull her ear at the end of every show. Somebody with this kind of erotomanic delusion, thought disorder, would think that maybe that this person is sending them a special message and that they believe that they are loved by them. You see, so that's a flight of ideas. This is the end. I'll come right back to you.